Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
What is up? Welcome into the GSMC Football Podcast on a Wednesday today here. My name is Tom Dougherty, your host. As always, this podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. This is a college football edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, as we're going to go over some power rankings for you today, as we talked about the outlook just kind of for the season, looking at the path to the college football playoff, how to get into the top four, which team from which conference is going to get snubbed if they win their conference, and they're going to get snubbed because there's five power five conferences. It's math. There's just five conferences. There's only 4 teams that make it in the playoff tournament, whatever you want to call it, the playoff. And so one is going to be the odd man out. Last year we had 2 champions get left out because it was deemed that Alabama was worthy of making it, and then as a non-champion, so they were the non-champion. Then obviously you had Oklahoma, Clemson, and Georgia in there as champions, but no USC and no Ohio State from last year, as they won their conferences and were left out because of the. I mean, it's all seed. And Ohio State was the 5th seed; they were the first one out, and USC was the 6th seed. So I mean, if we had the expanded playoff, like I said, you could do that. You could have all five champions and one at-large team, and you play out, and you have seed them all out, and then you play out. You have a bye, but I think the college is the one. They don't want to get too close to the way the NFL does it, because that's the exact format that the NFL has for their playoffs as well. All right, so getting into the we're going to go conference by conference here with these power rankings that we have devised for everybody here. I mean, obviously there's some obvious ones, but I mean, when it comes to all these preseason power rankings, we're looking at obviously pedigree and potential. So we'll start out west, actually. Out west, because I think out west is the most jumbled up. It's the most jumbled up because you have the Pac-12 North and South, and there's some talent everywhere. In the South, you have Khalil Tate with Arizona. You have talent up north in Stanford with Bryce Love. Even further north, you have Justin Herbert. Even further north, you have Jake Browning and Myles Gaskins, and how those two can go off. But so looking at these power rankings from this year, I'm gonna have to probably put. We'll start right now. We're gonna put Washington number 1, because Washington number 1 right now. They have the quarterback, they have the coach. Even though Chris Peterson and David Shaw are kind of a wash, if you want to put who has the edge, because I think Stanford is number 2 right as of now. Oregon could get up there, but as of now, Stanford's number 2. Because they have the coach and they have the running back. So I mean, the slight edge goes to my fellow Bulldog from Folsom High School, Jake Browning, up at Washington. So because of the quarterback situation, and they have the running back as well. So you have Jake and you have Myles Gaskins, and then also Chris Peterson. So we'll give Washington the edge just by slightly on top of this conference. Then Stanford number 2. So Stanford number 2 is probably where they've kind of been that number 2 team for a long time, probably since they've had Andrew Luck, where they're able to really do a lot. But it looks like that this is going to be a season where they're going to have to, the scheduling obviously has a lot to do with it, and it factors into the power rankings a lot, because you kind of have to see how they map out their season. But a weaker USC team this year, Stanford should be able to handle them. They shouldn't slip up against SDSU, and then basically their tests are going to be against Arizona, Washington, and Notre Dame. And that's pretty much it. Every other game is winnable, and should be won by a team of that caliber, especially when you have a Heisman Trophy favorite as a running back and a very, very capable quarterback. KJ Costello throws some great passes over the middle, meaning they should be able to just do fine with the play action. So they're number 2. I know that if you want to look at intangible, like the edge, if you want to do separate things, defense is probably pretty even for both sides. For Washington and Stanford, it's kind of hard to keep up with the defenses in college because there's just so much turnover. You're going to have guys with the freshmen, sophomores, everybody in there on defense. I know Stanford had a couple. Both teams actually had some losses in the draft last year. Vita Vea goes to the Redskins. He's a big defensive lineman for Washington, so that could be a big loss. But next man up kind of mentality is how college always is. And then Justin Reed, the safety from, or I think he played corner or second. He's a DB, defensive back from Stanford, got drafted as well. And I think a couple of their other guys in the middle there as well did get drafted. But then Stanford also is pretty good at finding some hidden gems, and they usually get some big linemen on there, especially some good linebackers. They've had a history of good linebackers and good defensive line play, like Blake Martinez, Trent Murphy. That's all I think off the top of my head. I'll think of the other guy's name, but they'll just be fine. I think it's kind of the edge. It goes, like I said, the coaches pretty even. Maybe David Shaw a little bit of an edge. Defense is pretty even. Maybe I think Stanford Stanford a little bit more of an edge because they have a little bit more beefy up front. They have that big loss in the front and their front seven. And then quarterback, probably you're going to give that to Washington. Jake Browning was a Heisman Trophy favorite or candidate probably back in his sophomore season when they went to the College World Playoff. This is the school that's been to the tournament before, or into the playoff. They want to call it a tournament. But and then you have the running back situation. You give the edge to Stanford in the running back situation, but the tandem, the combination of running back and quarterback, I think you give that to Washington. They get the number 1 seed or number 1 spot. Stanford number 2. Number 3 is going to be Oregon. I know we haven't gotten down south yet, so we'll get their next pick, but Oregon, they're going to be an interesting little team. They don't get up there. They could fight for that number 2 slot easily because of their talent, but they have a new head coach. They had a coach in there who didn't last very long because he got a better offer at Florida State, Willie Taggart. But they get Mario Cristobal in there. They have Justin Herbert, who is a specimen, and this is a guy who looks like he's a mini or just a younger Carson Wentz. He's got the same body style, same ability, running the ball. Throwing the ball probably a little bit needs a little more. Obviously, the accuracy and touch will come, but the guy's exciting, and you see some of the numbers he puts up in a shortened, just like lesser. No, he didn't get less games last year. I think he played 7 or 8 games last year as a starter. So he's got the sky's the limit for this kid. This is a young kid. Obviously, he's listed as a dual threat quarterback, and he's a definite Heisman sleeper. I would say he's a Heisman sleeper right now because he hasn't really been on the big stage, kind of like we've seen with Jonathan Taylor and with Bryce Love already, as they have been on national TV all over the place, played multiple full seasons, and Justin Herbert quite hasn't. He's going to be going into his, hopefully make it. Barring our injuries, we don't want to think about that, but he'll make it through his first full season at Oregon, and then make a decision, honestly, because he's a guy who could be very, depending on how good of a season he has this year, he's a guy who's going to get looked at by a lot of teams. He's got the body style, he's got the frame, he's got the arm, he's got the legs. The NFL is going to love this kid, and he's going to have a decision to make after this season. Whether it's going to be 1 full season at Oregon and he goes and jumps ship, or he's going to stay for 1 more and then do it. So it's always a gamble with these kids. So, but Oregon, they're going to sit at number 3 right now. as they have the quarterback. They have the quarterback, and then I mean, honestly, that school, the way they recruit, they're able to lure athletes. I mean, I know football is it's cerebral as well, but sometimes physicality can just the speed and the way you saw what Oregon did, getting these track guys in there and turning them into really good football players, and making the speed really be a thing, a factor for this for their offense. So look for Oregon to try and maybe do that this year again. It's not going to be quite the Chip Kelly. We're going to get that. Chip Kelly's going to be down in L.A. We'll see what he does with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But, all right, we're going to go down south. Number 4 is going to be Arizona, because they have Khalil Tate, and their defense actually isn't terrible either. And they have Kevin Sumlin. Kevin Sumlin's going to be, those guys are going to be chomping on the bit, raw, and ready. That guy is a hype machine. He also is a very good recruiter, so he's going to be able to really revamp that roster as well. But right now they have Khalil Tate. Khalil Tate's a Heisman Trophy on the radar at least. His stock will probably rise throughout the season, assuming he performs well. But very good quarterback, very good talent. I mean, this is a guy who who's kind of just jumped onto the storm. Like, oh, he plays down there in Arizona, and sometimes those Pac-12 games going to get lost because they start at 7:00 Pacific time, and that's 10:00 Eastern. So nobody out there can really, they're sleepy before that. So he's just kind of like, ugh. All right, well, quickly now, that's the top 4. We'll do number 5. Number 5 is. This is a tough toss-up, honestly, right now, because Washington State is very good with Mike Leach. They have to revamp their quarterback. So I'm actually going to go with UCLA. We'll put UCLA at number 5 because Dorian Thompson-Robinson and because Chip Kelly. Those two factors, the way that those two guys are going to be able to come together, and I think he's the perfect player for Chip Kelly to have in his first season at UCLA, because it's not really, I don't think there's going to be much of a hiccup. He's going to go right into his system and be just fine at UCLA. So they're number 5. That's the top 5. Number 6, a close number 6, could have easily been number 5. Utah, they're going to be very good. They have a very good little coach there. And Coach Whittingham, and they have a former Folsom High School staffer coach. Coach Troy Taylor is going to be their offensive coordinator, and that guy, talk about an innovative offensive mind. I mean, this is a guy who had Jake Browning over there, who plays for Washington. We just talked about him. They had him at Folsom, and they broke pretty much every record you could possibly break in California high school football. So look out for Utah. Also, they have a scrappy little defense over there as well. Number 7, we'll go. I know they're kind of just lost their quarterback, but you never can count out USC for too long. USC will be there. They'll have the talent. They'll be able to. Whoever their quarterback situation is going to be, is probably going to be fine. I think JT Daniels honestly will end up being the guy, because he's probably the most I don't think he's the most polished, but he probably is he has the highest ceiling, is what you want to say. He has the highest ceiling, and putting him in that program and getting him the most time possible to play with the college level at a pro style offense, and it's their coaching is just not that flashy right now. Usually they have more of a higher profile coach down there in LA, like you assume a Chip Kelly, but Clay Helton's not that guy. They've had their tribes and tribulations with those kind of guys like a Lane Kiffin or a Steve Sarkisian, but they're sticking with Clay Helton, and we'll see how that runs along there. He's not the biggest X's and O's guy in the world, so we'll see if USC has any problems with getting out coached this year. I'm kind of running into the end here, as we still have a few more schools, but I mean, this is the back end of the rankings. So number 8 is going to be Colorado. That's actually a team that might surprise some people in the Pac-12 North. I know the North is kind of jumbled up right now with Oregon and Washington and Stanford, but no, look out for Colorado to be kind of a spoiler. They play scrappy, they play hard, they have a good coach who they love, and gets them motivated for games. So don't count them out. That's number 8, right? Number 9 is going to be, so we have four more teams left. Number 9 is going to be Washington State. Just lost their quarterback. Obviously had a horrific tragedy last year with the other young quarterback, Tyler Helinski. I did talk about him a few weeks ago on the show. after his parents come out and talked about the CTE stuff and everything, but we'll leave that for another conversation. But Washington State with Coach Leach can't really. They're going to probably be higher than I have them on the board probably right now because he gets his players ready. And he's a great coach, honestly. So they're going to be where they are, number 9. Number 10 is going to be Cal, as they kind of revamp their whole thing. They actually didn't have Ross Bowers is going to be a little interesting. We see what he can do this year. It'll be a good challenge for him. And then 11 and 12 is Arizona State and Oregon State. Oregon State, obviously, they haven't really done much in the last few years. Just getting a new coach now, who they kind of had to beg to take over the job. And then Arizona State with Coach Herm Edwards is going to be. I hope it's not going to be a clown show or just a side show kind of thing. I hope I feel like that guy, he takes things seriously. I mean, I just saw him actually up in Tahoe at the golf tournament, at the Celebrity Golf Tournament. And that guy looks like he's chomping the bit. He's ready. He's intense. He's an intense guy. We've seen him on the ESPN, but when you leave coaching for a while, it's going to be interesting how to get it back in there after being, on TV and being a pundit for so long. So we'll see how he does. Well, those two round out the end of the power rankings for me in the Pac-12. So we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll do the SEC next, and then I think we're gonna have to. Well, we actually have 4 segments and there's 5 conferences, so we'll have to squeeze 2 into one segment, or maybe stretch one out. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition today. As we are going to the power rankings, preseason power rankings, as we are getting closer to a month away from the start of this college football season. We did the Pac-12, we're going to do the SEC this time. The SEC is a little more straightforward, so maybe we could fit into 2 conferences in this segment here. We'll see how it goes as we come through. Obviously, and the SEC, Alabama is the bride of the ball, or whatever analogy you want to use. They're the best team. They're number 1. Obviously, the Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts debacle is still going on. It's becoming more of a controversy every day, I think, as you still have uncertainty in your team room or whatever lavish facilities they have down there in Alabama for the Crimson Tide football team. But, it is what it is. I think that they're going to be figuring it out that it's Tua. I think it's going to be a no-brainer. It's going to be maybe something that they already know that we just haven't been told yet as a fan base. The media hasn't been notified, but it's going to be interesting. I know they have had some interesting issues with injuries, but they always seem to find a next man up. It's always been a next man up scenario there, kind of a figure it out as you go defense that they'll end up having a few stars on it, as it always does. But this is going to be a team that is going to probably be based a lot off their offense this year. Maybe obviously the defense is going to be probably the backbone at a certain point throughout the season. But with injuries and stuff like that, they're going to have to replace all those guys in the secondary, and get some linebackers. But it's Nick Saban, and he's the recruiter, and he's going to be on top of that. And if anything, he's got it ready to go for this season. And Georgia is number 2. They also have kind of a quarterback competition as well. But I mean, Jake Fromm is the guy. He was the guy last year. He should be the guy this year. It's his job to lose if there is a job to lose. But really, it's replacing Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. Obviously, they have DeAndre Swift. He's very special. Obviously, we've seen what he can do on the football field. We saw that against Alabama, of all people. So, I mean, of all teams. So, definitely in good hands there with Coach Kirby Smart, and which means that their defense will probably be just fine. They did lose obviously Roquan Smith, but you're going to be just fine with probably your next man up there, as Georgia has been a pedigree of excellence on the defensive side, and also on out of the running back position as well. So I mean, DeAndre Swift is going to be the next Georgia running back, next crop of running backs headline the next crop of running backs probably in the next few years, because I mean, he's not part of the Bryce Love, Jonathan Taylor class. He's like the next one up, maybe like a Rodney Anderson situation where he'll be duking it out with him. So I mean, Georgia, they have to replace. Yeah, Roquan Smith is a big loss, but they'll be fine. As they have to make up for that loss. But it's just getting a couple guys in there. Whether it's going to be turning it over a little bit more, leave it to Kirby Smart to figure that one out. Auburn is number 3. That's pretty clear. Jared Stidham's back after the injury and shoulder surgery. They with Gus Malzahn, with that offensive style, they're probably going to reel off a lot of wins. It's just tough to beat a team like that when they're going that fast and that no huddle offense. And then their defense, I mean, they did lose a couple of different guys, but it won't miss a beat. Probably will be right on top of there. The play they get these players in there and they get them ready to go is ridiculous, is crazy. But I mean, it is college football. These are still teenagers and guys in their early 20s, so their bodies can adapt quickly, but also they make mistakes. But I mean, this is a high octane, high powered team here at Auburn, and they look to try and maybe go in Tuscaloosa again this year and maybe win another Iron Bowl, as they are the number 3 team. 4 is Mississippi State, as they have a new head coach, Joe Moorhead, but they have Nick Fitzgerald, who's going to be a really interesting player to watch this year at the quarterback position as he looks to get ready for his jump to the NFL after the season. 5 is Florida, as they also have Dan Mullen coming over there. Still haven't really decided on the quarterback. I think Felipe Franks is going to be the leader in the clubhouse, but they also have Emory Jones, who they'll make the decision when they break camp, I believe, as Mullen will be under duress a little bit, probably making a decision, as it'll be probably the linchpin to that season because obviously we know how important the quarterback position is, but making the right decision, making a decisive decision, because it's all about confidence. Making an early and decisive decision can exude a lot of confidence for whoever obviously gets selected, and it can affect him. You don't want to have any, if you suck, he's right behind you, don't suck. Like, that's not the best way to do it. So Florida's at number 5. Number 6 is going to be South Carolina. South Carolina actually has an interesting little roster. Is they got some good little wide out in Deebo Samuel. Also Jake Bentley at quarterback is going to be interesting to see how those two use their skills and tandem up this year. As the Gamecocks kind of get lost, as they're the only team out in Carolina that are in the SEC. The other ones are in the ACC, so they're kind of like, oh, that's right, we're a big dog out here in the SEC, and we got to play these tough teams. But the Gamecocks, they're usually ready to go, and they can definitely reel off some wins, maybe a couple upsets against the big schools this year, as Will Muschamp has gotten his ducks in a row for sure, and built a quality product and quality program there in a short period of time. Number 7 is going to actually be LSU, because they got Joe Burrow, and whether he's going to start or not is still kind of up in the air. I think Ed Orgeron, he kind of strikes me as a coach that is going to go with the guys who have been there the longest, because they actually went through spring football and actually went through all the tribes and tribulations of working out to get to the level where they are, versus Joe Burrow just kind of coming in from Ohio State and be like, hey guys, what's up? But then again, talent is talent, and if Joe Burrow is just better than those other two guys, Ed Orgeron is also not a dummy, and he's going to see that and be like, sorry, I got to do what I got to do. So whether it's going to be whether it's going to be Joe Burrow. Obviously, the defense, they got two guys, Greedy Williams and Devin White, who's going to be, there'll be definitely two guys on the defense who are going to make a difference, as LSU has always been a product of good defensive players. And, if you look at the NFL, obviously, we went over that NFL top 100 list. There were some solid LSU players in there, as they definitely know how to cultivate NFL stars. Number 8, Texas A&M. They have the new head coach with Coach Jimbo Fisher going over there from Florida State, as that's going to be interesting to see how he gets that quarterback situation figured out there. They don't have a guy who's kind of been tapped yet. They do have a star running back, Trayvon Williams, who's going to be a very good a little kind of security blanket for whoever is going to be quarterback. So they come in at number 8. We'll see how Jimbo does in the first season, obviously losing a couple weapons on the outside as well, with Christian Kirk going to the NFL. And number 9 actually is Kentucky, as they have him above. I have him above Missouri just by a little bit, because I like Drew Lock at Missouri, but Missouri kind of gets lost. If you like Kentucky, you got to look at Mark Stoops, and you see that the fact that he's been able to kind of gradually turn this program into actually a relevant program. As this is a guy who. This is a guy who has kind of been second fiddle to his brother, but now his brother, he's the only one left, and he's got a good little player in Benny Snell Jr. Because there's no really any option at quarterback right now. They don't have a really clear answer. So Benny Snell is going to be a guy who's going to rush for a bunch of yards, going to get a bunch of carries this year, and this is a guy who he's the kind of back who can do it. He ran for 1,300 yards last year, and has been able to really take the load there, as well as they have a strong defense on the other side of the ball to help them out, as they probably need there at Kentucky to be relevant in the SEC football, not basketball, football. Number 10 is Missouri. Drew Lock's going to be crazy. He might throw for 400 yards, but their defense is the problem, as they have a question on their side. But this is an interesting situation where they have an offensive coordinator who might not be the right fit for the quarterback, but you'll figure it out as you go along. Drew Lock can really sling it. At number 11, you have Ole Miss, as they are still kind of figuring themselves out after what happened with Hugh Freeze and that whole situation. They got Matt Luke in there now as the new head coach, and they'll have to get it going, as they have one of the best receiver rooms in the country. These are guys who are going to be first-round picks. A.J. Brown, DJ Metcalf, DeMarcus Lodge. They got guys who can do that. And then Jordan Ta'amu is their quarterback. He'll be slinging it to them. They're at number 11. Number 12, Tennessee, as they had that huge, weird coaching weird thing that happened over the offseason. They get Keller Christ in there to be a quarterback. He comes over as a graduate transfer from Stanford, so we'll see if he gets that job and can make something work down there in Tennessee. That's going to be. It's not in Nashville. Knoxville. There we go. Knoxville, Tennessee. In Vanderbilt, they're number 13, as Kyle Shermer's back as the 3-year starter. So we'll see if they. You never know. These Commodores, they can be the spoilers of the season for the SEC. And then Arkansas is number 14, as they have still kind of climbing out of that depths of Brett Bielema leaving them, as they are now at the bottom of this conference. All right, we'll go over to the Big Ten quickly before this segment's ended. We have a couple minutes left in this segment. I want to get started at least in the Big Ten. Number 1 in the Big Ten, Ohio State is very good, and it's just they have the quarterback now. When JT Barrett's gone, you saw what Dwayne Haskins can do. Obviously, they got the coach in Urban Meyer. You gotta love the Big Ten. Honestly, you gotta love watching Ohio State, as they are a fun team to get behind. Sometimes it's a little bit too much of a true blue blood situation. The red is their colors, but they've been a good team for a long time, and I hope they don't get snubbed again this year, because it's always nice to have an equal opportunity and equal participation in that college football playoff. And you see what they did when they actually got in it as a 4 seed. They were able to make a run and win the whole thing. So with a third string quarterback, you got to give Cardale Jones all the due in the world. So we'll see if they can do it again with a very talented roster there in Columbus. Number 2, Michigan. as they finally got the quarterback, Shea Patterson. Michigan, I'm excited for Michigan this year. I've been a Jim Harbaugh fan. I liked Jim Harbaugh when he was at Stanford. I liked Jim Harbaugh when he was with the Niners. Unfortunately, I'm not even going to blame Jim Harbaugh for that. What the whole thing with the Niners are, that's a Jed York situation right there. If you don't know who Jed York is, he is the young little president of the Niners who got it because his parents owned the team. I mean, it's kind of silly, but his mom did, or his aunt, I think it was, but it's a family thing there, and Jed kind of screwed that one up. But they got that figured out there in San Francisco. I'm not going to worry about it. But Jim Harbaugh, love Jim Harbaugh. We'll see how he does with Shea Patterson. That defense will be ready to go as it always is, flying around there as they play an interesting schedule. Not that tough, but not that easy either. And if they can get to that game against Ohio State undefeated, then anything can happen. All right, we'll come back after the break and we'll finish up the Big Ten, and then in the final two segments we'll do the Big Ten, and then obviously we'll squeeze in the rest of we'll start off the ACC, and then finish off the ACC and do the Big 12 in the final segment of the show today. So everybody stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition. I'm high on Michigan. I know not everybody else is, but I'm high on Michigan. I like Shea Patterson. I think it, they get pegged as an 8-win team without him, but he's worth it. And quarterbacks make a difference, and I think it's Jim Harbaugh's time. I think it's due. All right, number 3 is going to be Wisconsin. Wisconsin has Jonathan Taylor. I mean, they play a tougher schedule this year. They have a good defense. I mean, obviously, playing it with Jonathan Taylor, obviously you're going to be good. But a veteran quarterback, Alex Honeybrook, is going to turn into kind of that game manager, but he's not going to really do much for you other than that. So, I mean, hopefully Jonathan Taylor can get that team in a position where they can win a bunch of games. I think that their schedule does not dictate that. I've looked at Iowa's, and kind of when you look at the Big Ten East, it's just really tough. And then you look at the Big Ten West, it's not. And basically, whoever the team with the easiest schedule is going to be winning. And I think Iowa has the easiest schedule, and I think Wisconsin is going to slip up because Alex Honeybrook is not. It's a quarterback-driven league. You can stop the run. You could basically force them to throw if you want to, and make Alex Honeybrook beat you. I know he's a veteran quarterback and everything, but he's just not. Well, he wowed me at all. Yes, they do have some sort of. They do have some holes to fill in the defense as well. So I'm putting Wisconsin at 3. I mean, Michigan gets kind of pushed down because of the unknown factor with Shea Patterson and everything, but I like him, and I'm going to put him up. So I put him up there at 2. Wisconsin at 3. Number 4 is Penn State, as they have Trace McSorley. So I know I'm putting. I should. Why is Michigan number 4? Because if you look at it, you're right. Penn State is returning a quarterback. So is Wisconsin. Michigan is not, but Michigan has the coach, and Michigan has the pedigree and has the defense also to do it. So I think, I like how Michigan is looking. I know, without the quarterback, they'd be an 8-win team. No, it's fine. It's going to be fine. All right. So that's number 4 was Penn State, as they have. I mean, Trace McSorley is great. He's a little undersized. Obviously, they lose Saquon, so they have to figure out how to fill the hole for him. That is a pretty large hole. As he was. You get to the 50-yard line, you hand it to him, he can just bust it off, and then, all of a sudden the drive's over, or he'll just run it into the line of scrimmage. But it's I like Trace McSorley. The guy's a winner. The guy's a gamer. He's just a little undersized, and he might get swallowed up a little bit this year, but has not shown any slowing down. So it'll definitely be his show this season as he's up for the challenge. As he'll have some, we'll look to see who the weapons are for him on the outside. Nobody's really been identified as a person to watch for, but we'll find out as James Franklin will get that team ready to go. Surely, number 5, Michigan State. They have, they're such a solid program. I mean, it's a program that had such a down year a few years ago. They popped right back up. They got a great legendary coach, obviously dealing with a bunch of stuff during the offseason, but they'll handle that the way they need to handle it and get ready for this season as you kind of have to do. But you got like what they're going to do. Brian Lewicki is going to be a guy who has improved, who's going to improve over as he goes. He's going to improve. He's improved in the offseason, and he'll be able to show that he can play, and he can maybe get this team into a 10-win situation again, and maybe even poke their heads into a race for the Big Ten East championship. It's just so tough. I mean, championship berth or something like that to the Big Ten championship game. It's just so tough, that division. So tough. You have 4 very, very, very highly touted, pedigree-ridden programs with very good players and very good coaches. I mean, Mike D'Antoni at Michigan State, James Franklin at Penn State, Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, and then Urban Meyer. I mean, these are very, very good coaches at all 4 of those schools. So, I mean, tough sledding. So you see, we just went through all 4 of those schools. You slide Wisconsin in there, and that's where you are. I know Wisconsin, like I said, is probably better on paper, but their schedule is tough. And then one of those teams is going to be number 6 is a team that's on a bunch of these schedules. And I know their schedule, so which means their schedule is pretty tough. And that's Northwestern, but that's a nasty team. Northwestern is. They are good, and they play a lot of those tough games at home too. A lot of those, I think. Let me look at the peek of their schedule really quick. I think they get Michigan at home, and I think they get Wisconsin at home. So, I mean, some of these teams are going to have to go up to Evanston in the snow, maybe. You never know. Sometimes up there on the shores of Lake Michigan, it's going to be chilly during this football season because, it's right there. And it's blistering. I've been there. It's a beautiful campus, honestly. Beautiful campus. The football field's a little bit up north of the campus, but it's still right there on the coast of it's on an ocean. It kind of looks like an ocean. For somebody from the West Coast like me who has never seen a lake that goes to the horizon, it's kind of crazy because obviously we're used to oceans, and oceans go to the horizon. But you go to Chicago and you look out to the Lake Michigan, and it's like, where's the other end? Where's the other shore? It's a lake, right? No, it's a Great Lake. So it's gone. It's going to go to the other side. So that's just my little anecdote. It was an interesting anecdote. I remember loved Chicago when I went and visited. Beautiful campus up there at Northwestern. But as far as their schedule goes, Tom, talk about football. It's a football show. As far as their schedule goes, they're going to be a scrappy little team. I like Northwestern. They had a good season last year. They've got a good coach up there with a good program, with a good little, I call it a culture there at Northwestern. And obviously, these are guys who are very, very. This is a good school too. I mean, I'm not saying Michigan's not a good school. Michigan's a very high, really good academic school as well. But Northwestern's a private academic school that is known for. I mean, they pump out journalists and left and right. But looking at their football schedule, so they do. Let's see. They play Nebraska at home. They play Notre Dame at home. That's right. They played at Notre Dame. Yeah, so Wisconsin. So yeah, they're going to be that Wisconsin road game is going to be tough. Is going to make that tough. Hopefully, make that tough for Wisconsin. They go to Michigan State. Yeah, and then Michigan does come to them. So Michigan and Wisconsin, watch out. That could be a definite road bump for you when you have to go up to Northwestern. I mean, look at this. Wisconsin goes there October 27th. You think it's going to be cold? October 27th is going to be cold, and Michigan and Northwestern goes there November 3rd. So yeah, cold. All right, going back to the power rankings here, as I want to get at least the Big Ten done here, because I mean the Big Ten does have 14 teams, and then the Big 12 only has 8 actually, or 10, and then so does the ACC has 14. So okay, number 5. Number 5 for 6 was Northwestern. Then you got Iowa at number 7. I think Iowa. We've only gone 3 teams now in that Western division. I think Iowa's going to end up being this team that pokes themselves out in 2018 because they're going to be Iowa. Iowa will be Iowa. It's kind of the thing because they're going to be underwhelming, but they're still going to win a bunch of games because their schedule is so darn easy. It's literally they have nobody on their schedule. And they have some good players too. They got Nate Stanley. They got Noah Font as their tight end, so they got some talent on that team, and they can win a bunch of games because they're not playing anybody this year. So they're number 7. 8's Nebraska. They got a tough schedule. Obviously, they got a gauntlet to run this year with Scott Frost's first season. So we'll see how that works out. They're number 8. Number 9's Indiana, as they got some talent on there, but they get Brendan Dawkins coming over from Arizona, transferring as a quarterback. So maybe make some waves down there in Bloomington. You never know. Hoosier land can turn into football land pretty soon. At number 10 is Purdue. The back end of the Big Ten is kind of soft. You have a really tough top end of this, and then you have Purdue at number 10, Maryland at number 11, Minnesota at 12, Rutgers at 13, and Illinois at 14. Those teams might combine for like a handful of wins total. So, we'll leave it at that as those teams. We'll see if it can get some turnover. College football is tough. It's tough when you are a storied franchise like in Michigan and Ohio State. It's tough to unseat. It's tough for the little guys to get up there. I know Illinois, they have Lovie Smith. This is a guy who's been to a Super Bowl, a coached the Bears in the Super Bowl, and he's down there in Illinois. Maybe he can get that defensive culture instilled there, and they can win some games and surprise us all from the Fighting Illini at Illinois down there in Champaign. Yep. That's where it's called Champaign. That's where the campus is. There in Illinois. All right. So now that's the Big Ten. So let's go to the ACC as they have 14 teams. ACC. Come on. The Clemson is the bellow of the ball in the ACC. They have been for the last few years. They got Deshaun Watson. They get Dabo Swinney. The thing is, those are the flashy names. Their backbone. The reason why they've been so good for so long is their defense. Their defense, Shaq Lawson, what a player. In college at least, he hasn't really seen much. He's had some success in the NFL, not as much as he did in college, but they got guys this year. Christian Wilkins is he's the oldest, but not even the most exciting of all of them. They have 2 other guys on the other side of him who are going to be very high draft picks when they declare for the draft, the defensive linemen. As Clemson, they got some talent, man. They got some talent on the defense. They got a good little scrappy running back. Receiver, and it's what's his name? It's the guy who caught the pass at the end of the season last year. Not Renfro. I was trying to think. It's something like that. So we'll go. It's not Hunter Renfro. That guy plays for the Padres. He's a baseball player. It's something like that, though. I'll figure it out as he's back again this year. Obviously, you're going to have some sort of situation with Kelly Bryant kind of looking over his shoulder a little bit. Hopefully, he doesn't do it too much, as Trevor Lawrence is right there waiting in the wings. He's like, Kelly, you're juggling all these balls. I'm just waiting for you to drop one. You're juggling all the balls. I'm waiting for you to drop one so I can jump in there. So watch out for that if you are Kelly Bryant. But the only way you can watch out for that and make sure that nothing happens is by playing your ass off. So just do that, Kelly, and you'll be fine. Number 2 is Miami, as they have been kind of the bells, the 2 of them. But Miami was a year a little early. They said it was a year early last year for them to start being on the national stage, because everybody thought they were going to be good this year, not last year. But they were good last year. They were undefeated last year for a long time. They get stopped up by Pittsburgh in an early morning game that the players probably weren't ready for at all. I think it was a 10 o'clock game up there in Pittsburgh, and they got stunned. So you got to give them. I don't want to give them an excuse, but that just kind of sucks that that's the way it ended up, and then you get shellacked by Clemson in the ACC championship game. So whether they are going to be learning from the situation and learning from their mistakes from last year, and you got a good veteran quarterback in Malik Rozier, so there's the sky's the limit for Miami. Their defense is good. They got some players. That turnover train's fun. It motivates guys, and it's going to be having guys looking for the ball. They create turnovers, man. Whether it's they hit hard hard and they go after the ball. They fly after the ball. They got a fast defense. They also got Homer, who's a cool little player on the offense as well. So watch out for Miami. They could make some moves. As this was going to be the year. You give Mark Richt to another year, he can get some players in there and they can play really well. Number 3, I really want to put Florida State in there because Florida State should be number 3. Those are your top 3 teams in the ACC, but they just haven't really done much of showing that they are actually ready to play football. Whether it's trying to still figure out what's going on with DeAndre Francois, we've talked about that a lot on the show. As well, but we also talked about the fact that James Blackman has been in the office of Willie Taggart, who's a new head coach. It is Hunter Renfrow. Wow, they have the same name. That's hilarious. It's spelled differently. That's why I'm all in my head. It is Hunter Renfrow. There's a Hunter Renfrow, plays for the San Diego Padres, spelled Renfroe, not OW. So there you go. I knew it. It was Hunter Renfrow. I'm not losing it yet. All right. So that's Florida State. They have to figure out their quarterback situation. James Blackman honestly deserves that starting job. He unfortunately hasn't been able to show the skills quite yet. Hopefully he's grown them and learned them and added them some skills during this offseason because he wasn't that great last year, honestly. But he's been in the gym. He's been in the office of the coach. He's been on his back the whole time, all while DeAndre Francois is still trying to rehab his knee injury and also getting raided by the police. So, whether priorities need to be put straight down there in Tallahassee as they get ready for another season of Seminole football, because this is a prideful program down there, and you saw after especially a weird kind of leaving for Jimbo Fisher, they got some work to do down there with Willie Taggart. So we'll see what happens with them this season, as we've yet to find out who's even going to be under center for them this season. So we'll see if when fall practice rolls around, we'll see how healthy DeAndre Francois is, and if he even can start week 1 with that knee. So, all right, we'll come back after the break and do the rest of the ACC, and then we'll do the Big 12 as well. So everybody stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, final segment of the day today here as we're talking ACC right now. As we talked about the hurricane, we put Clemson number 1, Miami number 2, Florida State number 3. I was looking at Miami went 10-3 last year. They were 10-0 going into their game against Pitt, lost to Pitt. So they're now 11-1, still win their division. Play Clemson in the ACC championship game, gets shellacked. Okay, now you're still getting a bowl game, and they lose the bowl game. They lose the bowl game too, so that sucks. But that's the way it goes sometimes. It's snowball effect. But it is what it is. So Miami number 2 for me, Florida State number 3, and then we have number 4 is Boston College. Boston College is interesting. This is, their highest pedigree is probably from getting Matt Ryan and Luke Kuechly into the NFL. But we got to watch out. A.J. Dillon, he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. This is the guy who's going to put on quite a show this year. This is a guy who can put up, whether it's he's put up a bunch of rushing yards. What is it, 200 last season? In his career, he's got over almost 1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns in his career. Boston College, I can't speak all of a sudden, tongue twisters. No, at Boston College, so watch out for him, as well as the offensive line has become one of the most experienced units in the country. And when you have a good running back like Dylan is, you want to have an experienced line to be able to create holes for him. So definitely look out for that as Boston College comes in at number 4. Number 5 is Virginia Tech. You got Justin Fuente in there, Josh Jackson, a quarterback. I had him at number 4, then I just went and looked at the AJ Dillon tape, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, well yeah, we got to put he's going to be with that offensive line. Boston College can be pretty good. They're going to be scary this year for some of these teams that have to play them. But I like Virginia Tech. I like Justin Fuente, young coach in there, getting a different kind of culture at Virginia Tech, and when you have to maximize talent, you want to have innovation, and that's what young coaches can do. And Justin Fuente has been able to do that in everywhere he's gone. So that's especially at Memphis. And number 6 to me, NC State. Obviously, NC State loses a bunch of good players like B.J. Hill and Bradley Chubb, but they're going to be number 6. They were 9-7 last year. They got probably one of the more established quarterbacks in Ryan Finley, and still some good weapons on the outside with Kelvin Harmon and Jacoby Myers. So watch out for them, as they can be a team to sneak up on y'all as well. Louisville, number 7. Lamar Jackson's replacement is obviously the biggest talking point out there, as they have to figure out who is going to be the next big thing at Louisville at quarterback, and it's Jawan Pass will be the guy to come in and take over for him, as he might be just the fit for him. But Bobby Petrino is probably more worried about the defense, as that's definitely something that they're going to have to figure out, as they had a pretty bad last year with the way that defense worked. All right, number 8, Wake Forest. Obviously, we'll figure out how good John Wolford is at quarterback. Wake Forest, not the biggest name in college football, but they're in a Power 5 conference. You got to watch them. Number 9 is going to be Panthers. This is the team that upset Miami last year, remember, at the end of the season. So they're riding high, as Coach Narduzzi will definitely get this team ready to go, and excited for another good season, as they will be building around quarterback Kenny Pickett as well. So look out for them. At number 10, Duke. Duke isn't really obviously more basketball school, but they've also had some success in the football, as they'll have to play 2 non-conference games on the road. They'll play Northwestern and Baylor, as those private schools like to hook up, but they also take a trip to Clemson, so it'll be a tough little stretch for them as well. Number 11 is Georgia Tech, as they kind of are figuring themselves out down there in Atlanta, kind of working themselves out into the top, getting back into the top. When you get a big receiver, you hopefully can get another Calvin Johnson down there. 12 was North Carolina, 13 Syracuse, and 14 is Virginia, as that rounds out the top. Not the top, but it's just your ACC power rankings there. As those schools, hopefully they won't be doormats. You want some interestingness, but you also want to. I kind of want to see an undefeated team this year, one maybe, and whether it's going to be Clemson, we don't know. But I mean, it could definitely be Clemson, as they only have a few tough games on their schedule this year. They should be able to roll through their regular season schedule and get another ACC championship under their belt just fine. I mean, obviously you got to play the championship game, and likely it'll be against Miami again. So, people learn from their mistakes. Mark Richt's not a slouch. It'll be a fun one to watch at the end of the year this year. So, that's it for the ACC. To the Big 12 will go, as we have the perfect amount of time to do that, because the Big 12 only has about 8 teams or so. In the Big 12, number 1, Sooners, with obviously Baker Mayfield's gone, but you get Kyler Murray, and he was the most decorated high school quarterback in the league, in the land. He gets drafted by the A's, so you get 1 year of him, and then we'll see, I guess. Hopefully, whether I've talked about it a lot with the fact that Lincoln Riley is going to have to take that into account, maybe with his play calling, whether they're going to have less touches when he's going to have less keepers, and they're going to tell him to throw the ball more, and get rid of the ball out of your hands so you can get tackled as much. I don't know how they're going to do that, but this is a guy who's probably wanted to play quarterback for Oklahoma for a long time, especially since he transferred there from Texas A&M, and he made his promise, and he wants to keep his promise to the coaches and to the school. So it's pretty honorable. He's got a good little running back behind him in Rodney Anderson. So why wouldn't you? just stay healthy, buddy, and get to the A's and play some baseball because you'll make some money there. So Oklahoma's number 1. Number 2, West Virginia. Love West Virginia. I'm excited to watch them. Honestly, Dana Holgerson's going to be a guy who's going to create situations for Will Grier to air that ball out, get some points, rack up the points on the board. Obviously, you got to play defense too. But this is a team that is going to be fun to watch. They're going to be high flying and high octane with a good quarterback, Will Grier. Look out. Number 3, TCU. As they get, they have their defense is actually going to be the most interesting and dynamic of this Big 12. And that's kind of how you win in the Big 12 is when you can actually be the team that plays defense. Oklahoma did this last year. They actually play defense. There's not many teams in this conference that play defense. And if TCU can be a team that plays the best defense, they could roll off some wins really easily because they can score some points. This is a team that's been in some serious shootouts before in their lately, especially. So look out for defensive ends. Ben Banagu, it's actually Ben Banagu, and then defensive tackle Rosa Blacklock. So those are 2 guys who are going to be interesting. Obviously, they're going to have to completely overhaul that offense. I mean, Kenny Hill's gone. They have to figure it out with Sean Robinson, the untested sophomore quarterback there at TCU. 4 is Texas, actually. Texas is going to be interesting. They got some good weapons on the outside. Still having to figure out their quarterback, Sam Ellinger and Shane Bushiel. Those are going to be 2 guys as they're going to be, we don't know who's going to stand out under center or who's going to be the guy yet. We'll leave it up to Tom Herman. But, I mean, this is year 2 for him. It's kind of it's been a kind of revolving door down there in Texas where it's like, okay, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Charlie Strong, okay, you're not there yet? Okay, we'll got to get a new guy in there. So we'll figure that out as it goes for Coach Herman. I mean, I think college football is a better thing when Texas is good. That Red River rivalry, say that 5 times fast, is Texas versus Oklahoma. We want something competitive. I mean, it hasn't really been that competitive. Oklahoma's been really good, and Texas hasn't been as high. So hopefully we can get another installment of a good battle. Number 5, Oklahoma State have to obviously replace Mason Rudolph, but they have some very, very talented players to test for that. So they're going to figure that out. The first quarterback derby or competition, as they're calling it there in Oklahoma State. But they got a walk-on guy, as he has Taylor Cornelius has been very good in spring football, taking first-team reps. Also have to hold off the graduate transfer Drew Brown from Hawaii, as well as freshman Spencer Sanders, who was a top recruit out of Texas high school, out of the Texas high school football system. So 3 guys there. And Mike Gundy, he'll have to make a decision. He's got about a month to do it. I'm always a proponent of getting the word out early, or at least trying to tell somebody that they are going to be like, you do this and you are going to get the job. Like, instill confidence early into your young players. So Oklahoma State number 5. 6 is Kansas State. Coach Snyder still not deciding on who's going to start for him. You got Skylar Thompson and Alex Dalton there at Kansas State. So we'll again, same kind of thing at that situation where I like, tell them early, or at least give somebody some sort of inkling where you have confidence in them, and you want them to be your guy. 7 is Iowa State. They're my favorite upset machines, as they usually have a couple or 1 or 2 every year. Last year they beat Oklahoma. And we'll see who they do this year. Maybe be Oklahoma again. Number 8, Texas Tech. Cliff Kingsbury is probably one of the most coaches on the biggest hot seat coming into this year, because he hasn't really done much except for design some pretty cool looking uniforms. Because he's in charge of that, right? But they have to figure themselves out. They got a good. Hopefully they can when they have good defense. If they have good defense down there, they can win some games, because offense is kind of comes customary to the Big 12. But if you can get a good defense, they got Dakota Allen, also got Deshaun Johnson and Justice Parker as well. So get some talent there on defense. Hopefully they can turn that into some wins. Number 9 is Baylor. Obviously, I think this is kind of a low rating because we don't know really what Charlie Brewer is going to be able to do. But knowing that what kind of quarterback he is, and what kind of talent he has, you can look for him to be a guy that could be the next Baker Mayfield. You don't know. They could shoot up the power rankings very quickly, as this is a guy who had some good performances at the end of last season, and it can turn that in hopefully over the whole length of the season. Also, they got the Tennessee transfer Jalen Hurd as well, who's going to be a very good little player for him as well. So he's got to watch out. They got two top receivers. Also, Denzel Mims is a very good guy as well. Number 10 is Kansas. As Kansas football has kind of been the joke of college football for the last few years. That's kind of your bye week. I don't really want to go into it too deeply. We know what happened with Baker Mayfield last year and everything. The guy, you got to give the guy credit. He gets all mad they don't shake his hand, and he does the whole whatever, and beats the crap out of him. I mean, you got to give him credit. He took it to him, and he took it to him. Yeah, he made the little mark on the sideline, which probably wasn't in the best taste. The little move he made on the sideline, but the guy was still number 1 pick overall. Obviously, didn't affect his draft stock that much because he beat them down. He beat them down, and if anything, he's like, "Yeah, I beat you up. Come. What are you gonna do about it now?" Kind of thing. And if you're Baker Mayfield, you're hyped on a win or hyped on a good performance. So be it. I know some guys out there I like Colin Cowherd. I'm a Colin Cowherd fan, but he didn't like when Baker did that. He's like, I don't like when my quarterbacks are like that. Like, well, it's not the worst thing in the world to get hyped. I mean, you see Tom Brady when he plays really well, he yells and he swears and he does a lot of weird things sometimes. And then the same thing the other way around. When he does crappy, he gets mad. So it's not the worst thing in the world. All right, that's it. We did it all 5 conferences, and look at that. We are at the end of the show today here, as we will sign off and come back on Friday for another edition of the college football podcast, or the college football edition of the GSMC Football Podcast. There we go. Eventually here, we're going to have our own show. We're not going to be this edition anymore. We're going to have the college football GSMC College Football Podcast coming to you. I think by the end, I think it's going to be by the start of the season. So I'll keep you guys in the loop, especially for that. So, when to switch over to the other podcast. So, but right now, keep listening to the football one. Jesse will be on later, and you'll be able to have a show with him as well today. So everybody say hi to Jesse for me, as we will sign off today, and we'll come back on Friday. So everybody have a good middle of your week. Happy Wednesday. Talk to you later. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.